Right, so last time I show you my prototype of design number 1 for making the profile of the moon jar, or we can call profile rib. This is my version number 2. Again, it's a prototype, and I make it a little bit thicker. You can see that a little bit thicker. This one is about 1/4 inch, and this one is about 3/4 of an inch. So so that the design for this to be a little bit thicker is that 1/4 inch is like a metal one, so it's only 2-dimensional. And for this part here, a little bit thicker, so not only I can use this curve, but I can also use the side of it. So I have a multiple curve depending on which spot I'm pushing it onto. That is in my design. I think this will be more versatile than the flat one. Okay, so I will give it a try. My version number 2. This piece of clay I will estimate it's a little bit over than 2 pounds of clay, maybe 2.5 pounds. So first I center. Open it. Okay, take it to the right thickness and push toward the corner. Make sure the base you have a sharp corner. Well, sometimes you could open it up wider so that it's easier for you to compress the flow, and later on you can color in to make the cylinder narrow. So when you push it a little bit lower, easier for your finger to compress it. But now also the design of this tool is that this part here is flat, so you can use that to compress it, right? Okay, the flow compressing. And then, like I told you, that open it wider, and now you can color in, squeeze it. And since this piece of clay is still short, okay, low, so I'm just going to pinch, grab it, and then lift it. Pinch, and this hand, the right hand, is stabilize it here. Pinch and raise it up. And make sure you recycle your slip. Especially inside is more important than the outside, so you want inside to be nice and slippery. Outside is easier, just touch it up and then you can cold the water. But inside you want to take more time to do that. And first I will do my initial lifting. Using the finger inside to push out a little, slightly like a belly, okay, big fat belly here, and then my hand is gonna push and squeeze it up from the belly, the underneath of the belly. And usually I use my thumb method, okay, use my thumb, right thumb, and make sure that the finger is all attached, all tucked in together, so it's not the thumb's not very loose. Okay, so the key is finding support, and then I can brace my rest here on the splash pan and push from the belly and lift it. And compress the rim and recycle my slip, put it back on the inside. I always tell people that inside is very important to lubricate it, and just recycle your slip. And for outside, just touch it up above water and you go move it up and down to spray the water evenly. And there's skirt of clay hanging out here, you can use it. So I'm using my right fingertip to squeeze it, push it in. And when I push it in, you can see there's a little belly here. So I'm going to fit my thumb here underneath and then push it up. Slippery and push from the belly and move it up consistently. Okay, so that is the lifting. And for the shaping, okay, bring my profile rib here. This side is a little bit larger curve and this side is a smaller curve, so I will use the larger curve first. And from the corner and slightly push out and move the wall against the rib. Okay, I will do one more time. Make sure this part is slightly slippery. Okay, so that is for the larger curve. You can keep on going up. Okay, you use the curve and we can move the rib there using that to guide it. So leave this part here untouched. Later on, you could do close it, or you can do make a nicer rim for the top. So you don't need to stretch it, or you don't need to shape it here. And I'm gonna switch it side and turn it into the other side. So I have a smaller curve, so I can push it more here to get more curve. Okay, so slightly, if you hold it more straight, and you see that I could push out more for the curve. I was holding it slightly that, so this part here is fitting. But if you are kind of tilt it, so hold it more straight, then I have a more curve here, so I can push it more, push out more here. So this is for the moon jar. If you want to do the moon jar, you can hold it here and push out more for even smaller curve. And when you are doing it, make sure that you push out evenly, and the slow, keep when you're shaping, slow the wheel. So that is what this profile rib all about. And a lot of people, they struggle using the metal rib. Okay, my personal preference, I would like to use the metal rib, but a lot of a beginner, they cannot push the right curve. They tend to push a little bit too hard here, so eventually they collapse, or they push too hard here, so they collapse. So for the munja shape, this part here and this part here is the weakest part. So if you stretch it too much on that two spot, it will result in the collapsing. Okay, so that's why I designed this profile rib, so it will fit right there. You just push that clay onto the rib. Okay, I could push out a little bit further on the bottom. And very important that when you are shaping, the inside has to be slippery. You don't have too much of the friction when you're pushing, when you're shaping. Okay, and that is the profile. And then now I could do something to the rim to make it smaller or finish it better. Before I do that, slightly clean up the inside. I still have some residual slip left over there. Use a sponge. When the mouth is open, wider, you could reach there and do it. You don't want to wait until you close it and then use a stick of a stick with a sponge and then just to do it. Okay, before you close it, you could do it. You don't need to have that stick of sponge stick with the sponge. And if you want to refine it, the surface, okay, you can use the metal rib. So I personally use the metal rib a lot for the shaping, but some of you might have struggled with the metal rib. Okay, so I smooth the surface and wet it a little bit here. So I am going to close it. Okay, close the top. And before I do that, make sure you get a touch of water. Use a sponge to rehydrate it or lubricate it. Put some water there so it's not too sticky, not too much of friction. And I will try to pour up a bit slightly and squeeze it in a little bit. Slightly move up. Okay, and you could chalk it like that, or you can use a 6-point touch, or you can use a curl. Okay, lots of way to close it. And I'm just going to chuck it there. And instead of pushing it down, okay, I'm chucking it in and slightly lift it. Okay. Before I go further, this part here is a little bit slightly wobbly and the curve is not consistent, so I will go back and using my metal rib, or if you don't have a metal rib, you can just use a hand. Right here, right? I'm using my index finger outside and slightly follow through the curve from the bottom up. And you see that when I'm doing so, I have my finger inside to support it right there. And the finger is slightly squeeze it. Okay. And this part here, when I close it, it becomes a little bit thick. So I will try to thin it down. And you see that when I'm thinning it down, this hand is supporting there and this hand is squeezing the clay. And you see that that thumb is connected to my finger, so it's all stable. And my elbow is connecting to my left, okay, my left. And slightly squeeze it in and slightly squeeze it up. And you can compress the rim a bit, or if it's wobbly too much, you can chop it up. Okay, I am going to squeeze it in a bit and slightly lift up. With a finger inside to support it. And this hand is pushing and the thumb is pulling to the center. Okay, so that's how you close it. And usually I don't trim the very top yet, but later on, if that is wobbly too much, I will try to chop it and to level it. Okay, and I can bring back my metal rib to kind of smooth out this part here. You can see from the angle, this part here is a little bump, okay, not follow through, so I will put my finger inside to support it and then use the metal rib slightly bend it so the curve follow through. Okay, and now it's the time to try to level the rim. Okay, and if you want to close it further, okay, just pull the clay toward the center. And again, one finger there to support it, and the outside, the thumb and the finger there to pull and lift. The key is the finger inside to support it. Okay, this finger is supporting there while you squeeze in the clay, so you don't lose control of the rim. And of course, when you're doing so, make sure you got enough clay on the top. Okay, so that is for the munja shape of a profile rib. Okay, this profile rib. I make the hole a bit bigger so that when you grip, it's more firmer. You can grab it. You can grab it a bit firmer. Okay, a bit firmer here. And usually you don't like the bottom corner. Okay, the corner of the pot on the very bottom, you don't want to have the clay hanging out there. So my usual way is using the wooden knife to chop it and then use my number 10 tool to undercut it and then cut it. And you watch my recent demonstration, so this is another tool that I am developing for chop up the bottom corner using this tool. You can call it wet trimmer. Okay, you can trim it wet. And once you trim that corner off, make sure you remove the clay right away. Otherwise, the clay might go back and stick it on. So remove it and put it in your hand. Okay, that's cutting from the side of it. And you can also cut it from the bottom, the base. You hold it flat and then just squeeze it in. Right, so you can cut from two angles. From the bottom, you chop it. And from the side, you cut off a little bit clay up the base. I make a little curve here, so there's a little curve here, and if someone don't want to trim, you can just leave. Don't want to trim the foot of your pot, you can have a slightly style of a curve there on the very bottom corner. Okay, the final just scrape up the clay from the bed. And I designed this part here for scraping it from the bed. I didn't sharpen. This part here is slightly curved, so it's not gonna hurt my bed. And for the side, I actually sharpened a little bit, but not too sharp, so when you are removing the wet clay, you're not going to cut your fingers. Slightly sharpen it, but not too sharp on the very tip. So you can still trim the clay up the side easier when you have slight angle. Okay, and after that, just wipe off, clean the bed, and it's ready to remove from the bed. And this is my bed system, so it's made of aluminum. Right, and you just go there and leverage it, and you can pick it up easily. Okay, so that is how you get the profile. Using this tool. It's my prototype, and I don't know how, of course I'm professional, so I know how to use it correctly, and I don't know if you're a beginner. I will have some beginner student to try to see if they like it or not. All right, so that's it. Okay, thanks for watching and see you next time.